Hey guys, it's Julian today. I'm super excited to be talking to you about how to make minimal deep tech house in the style of George Smeddles, Iglesias, sort of like that Resonance Records style. And yeah, today I'm going to be talking to you about a lot of stuff that I haven't covered on here before, and particularly just like talking about how to work with vocals, some new techniques for making really fat bass lines and percussions and kicks, and also the little chord stabs that you heard in the intro. So as usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And let's get started. Alright, so we're at 126 BPM, and the first thing that we have up here are these two stabs. So these are actually pretty common, sort of like deep house style stabs, and the first thing that you'll notice is they really don't play that much. So with these tracks, like in particular this label and just this vibe in general, it's really just going to be based on like having a nice low end and percussion groove. That is really like the main foundation of these tracks, and really like it's about just letting that just kind of roll for a while. And then we will have like little stuff coming in and out, and that's essentially where these vocals and the chord stabs come in. But yeah, you really don't want to have those too much. Like even if there's like the part where the vocals are, there's no chord stab, and where the chord stab is, there's no vocal. It's like, in theory, we could make those work together because they're in the same key and all that, but it's about creating that really simple and minimal arrangement that's really just like not trying to take away too much space from the percussion and the low end groove, but still adding something, because if you have just that stuff, it's gonna get a bit boring. You can hear when we have all this stuff on top, that's what's really gonna tie it all together. So the way these are being made is it's these two samples. I'll play it for you. The original samples. So it's these two like just organ and piano stabs, and this is what you want to use for these. You can make these with synths, or you can also do it this way, where essentially we're taking these sampled stabs, and then you can see we're using the filter on each of these. And where it is we've got the envelope on there, so that it's kind of like a bit pluckier. So essentially we're doing what you would do when you synthesize these from scratch, but with these sampled sounds, so we can still get that control over it. We can still make it our own synth sound, but it's just got so much more texture. Essentially, we're bringing all the texture from these samples into the filter here, and just creating, like a more like quote-unquote juicy sound, versus if you just work with like saw waves and square waves, you're gonna just have saw waves and square waves. It's gonna sound the same thing every single time, but this way is just a bit more like kind of colorful and textured. And so I've got those going through pretty much the same effects. You can see it's just a bit of chorus, kind of like a slower echo, quarter notes there, some reverb, a bit of drum bus, which is really good to fatten these up and make them really like stand out in the mix. And then we just have a high pass filter, and then the second one you can see it's pretty much the same thing, just without the high pass. And that is those stabs. Then we had the vocal. So as you can hear, it's just these super like soaring, really out there female vocals. And that's the first thing that you want to keep in mind. When I was making this track in particular and listening to different vocals and trying to see what would fit, I noticed like if you don't already have a really high energy vocal sample, like if it's not like whoa, like screaming like crazy, female vocal like that, like very much like kind of 90s house influenced. But if you don't have that, like if you try to just use a sample that's just like it's just kind of like too chill, it's really not gonna work. You need that full force, just like you guys know what I'm talking about. So this shouldn't seem obvious, but these are really going to start with getting great samples. If you don't have great vocals, you're not going to have a great vocal. Like, simple as that. And then the effects on here are pretty simple. It's just a bit of echo and reverb, and then the drum bus, which really helps to bring those out. Because, like, what you want essentially is, again, it's all about that low end and the percussion groove. So you want a vocal that's going to hit, and then it's going to have, like, just enough reverb and delay to where you really don't need another vocal until 4 bars later. Like, the way you're still hearing that ring out, that's essentially what we're going for. And the drum bus can just really help to bring that out. And yeah, so that's it for the vocals. Then we have the kick, which you notice the kick doesn't have any processing on it individually. And so it's just like a really nice fat 909 style kick. You know, it's just sitting. The main thing is just like, if you look at it, it's one of the loudest things in the mix. So it's like, if you have a really fat, nice kick like this, you know, it's gonna just sit right on top of that and punch right through the mix. And you can get things a lot cleaner this way because you're not gonna have that extra saturation on the kick. That's gonna ultimately make your overall track feel less full. Then we have the bass line. So this bass line is essentially just like creating this groovy pattern, just using the F sharp minor scale. That's the key we're in, is F sharp minor. And like, yes, you can see we have F sharp, minor third, which is A, the fourth, which is B, the fifth, which is C sharp, and then that's really it. It's just those notes. But then essentially it's just like, you pick that scale, you know, pick maybe your 2 or 3 or 4 notes that you're going to use, and then it's all just about creating a cool rhythm with those notes. And so that's what we do here. You know, it's all about just creating that groove that's going to work really well with the kick being doom, doom, doom. These elements are kind of like dancing with each other. That's how you want to think about it. So like, this bass line has to do with the kick isn't, and the kick needs to do with the bass line isn't. Now for the sound, this is made with Operator, and it's just this FM sound with 3 sine waves. You can see the second one, it got the coarse pitch at 2, and then we just have a low pass filter on it. So here's without that, and with it. So the idea here is that we're creating this almost like 2 harmonically rich sound. You know, it's a very full sounding, like if we turn off the filter again. You know, obviously that has a lot of that like mid-range and like high end that you wouldn't want. But what it also has, when you have a bass that has that in it, even if it has more frequencies going on than you want, you know, it also has a lot fatter low end. That's the thing you gotta keep in mind is, like, if you just have a sine wave, it might sound more bassy, but it's not really gonna be that fat because it doesn't have that, like, low mid-range harmonic content that you need to really stand out. And so that's what this does. And then when we low pass it, it takes it, essentially we're like taking just the part from it that we want. And again, like if we use just a sine wave, like I'll even show you really quick. You can hear this bass is a lot fatter. And even sounds like it is the sine wave, but just with some extra stuff on top. So that's what you want to keep in mind there. And then we just have a little bit of saturation to beef it up, make it a bit fatter. A compressor side chaining into the kick, and then just this EQ8 here, just cutting out a bit of room. And then on the groove of those two, we do have a bit of saturation. So here's without it. And then with it. So it's the kind of thing you don't even really notice like super strong, like it's not right up in front of your face, but it does give just a bit more glue between the two elements because the kick and the bass now aren't just sitting side by side, but they're going through, even though it's very subtle, the same processing. So now they're just slightly closer together in that they just kind of have a little bit more of the same like sonic umbrella over top of them. You know, it's something you can't quite put your finger on, but it just makes your low end come together a lot more. And yeah, then we have the hi-hats. So what's happening here is we have our main hi-hat. It's 2 layers. It's this layer with this one. So you can hear, because that second one has a really good, like that kind of, you know, standard house 909 style hat. But then it doesn't really have the, like the punch to it. So that's what this one does. Yeah, this is all punch. And then you put them together, and it's just gonna sound like it's this one playing on its own, but for some reason it's just so much stronger. So that's how we want to approach that. It's like, you know, get the hi-hat that has that big housey like to it, but then you're also gonna need the punchy one underneath it to really make it stand out. Then we have this little background hi-hat which just goes like, you know, just add some extra hits here and there. You know, it's one of those things that you might not notice right away when you first hear a track, but if you don't have it, it's definitely going to be missing. Like, without this, everything is going to feel just like, kind of like it's missing. Just some extra kind of background stuff. You know, you don't want to just have the stuff that's right up in your face. You also have to have some little background stuff that's still minimal. You know, we're not taking up too much space with this, but it just adds that extra little groove. And just that extra little touch there. And then we have a shaker and tambourines. So the shaker, and then the tambourine. And the idea here is that the shaker has a lot of nice mid-range, and the tambourine has a lot of nice hi-hat, or high-end, and then you layer them together. And you get just like a really full-sounding shaker. Like, it almost just sounds like one shaker. It's just so much more full, and it takes up like a better space in the mix than if we just use one or the other. And on the group of those, we just have a little high-end boost. So here's without it. And then with it. Real subtle, but it's just making everything feel a bit sharper. Because you really want those hi-hats to like really cut through the mix like that. Then we have the clap snare, which sounds like this. So it's this clap. Layered with a snare, which, as you can hear when you put them together, you just get this like super punchy clap. And that's the idea here. It's like, you know, we don't want just like a little 808 clap. Like, we really need this to match with the kick in terms of fatness. So it can't just be like a little. You really gotta layer these together and get the snare in there for the and the clap for the. And that's how you really get that fat one like you hear in these tracks. And then we have our little percussions down here, so it's really just like these three. We have like some bongos here. And then there's just this kind of more like background percussion, and then this little snare as well. Very deep house. So yeah, these are pretty simple. You know, you just want to note like how much each thing is hidden. Like, you know, it's pretty frequent. Like, we're gonna have not a lot of percussion in terms of, you don't want to have like too many layers. Like, don't go and make 20 layers of percussion, because that's gonna become a mess. But you want to have a lot of percussion in terms of, like, you know, choose 2 or 3 or 4 sounds, and then just have those constantly going. Like, just no matter what, like, try to fill up as many 16th notes as you can, but still leave some open, because essentially that's what the groove is. It's just this really hectic, like, so it's about just picking a few percussions like this, and then just having those, like, constantly go and go and go in the background. And the last thing down here would be these sort of like background effects percussions, which sound like this. So these just kind of work with the main groove. Like, I'll play you the kick and the hi-hat and the clap. And you can hear what these do. Now all of a sudden it sounds like the intro of the track. So you can hear just having that ooh, and the little like essentially like just very subtle groove elements, but like just to have those in there. You know, every time you get that ooh, it kind of makes you like bob your head a little bit up, you know? You're like, and so the little oh is dry. This sound, the warp. So this is going through a bandpass filter and then some echo and reverb. So I'll just play you the original sound so you can hear it. It's just like a little like laser type of sound. And then I've also taken the fade and just made it like, which actually makes it groove a bit more because you kind of get that like, it's kind of like bouncing off of the kick rather than having it just right on the beat, you know? So all things to think about. Like, the thing to keep in mind here is, like, all of this percussion, it's not just, like, the programming. Every single sound here has to be selected specifically with the goal of, like, how that sound serves the groove. Like, the length of the hi-hat, for example. Like, this, like, it's not just random that we have, like, a little bit longer hi-hat here. Like, we're doing that because that's what's gonna fit this groove. And yeah, so that's what you want to keep in mind. And yeah, that is going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video. It's available right at the top of the description. This really helps support me. Plus, you guys get this awesome template to work with and build your own tracks. So it's a great two-way street there with the helping. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.